Morning. Oh,
Greetings, greetings. Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody?
morning. Good, thanks. How's your morning going?
Oh, fantastic. how can how can I put it? It's a new day, and at the same time, we're kind of looking to not necessarily needing to jump up in the morning and run to the laptop. So, but mixed feelings at the same time. I mean, obviously, we've got a team. There's a year and a half chunk of the life that's been focused on this one tool that we're creating, and so yeah, it's mixed feelings, definitely mixed feelings. But we're not gonna let that get in the way. Can everybody hear me?
Oh, Dave, I think you've gone on to mute.
Oh joy. Hold on. Let's just testing. Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you.
Okay, so have I been on mute for the last 2 minutes or?
No, not that long.
Just at the end.
Okay. My apologies. All right, so today's going to be more of a techie day. If what Paul and I are talking about doesn't seem quite straightforward, don't worry about it. It's just it's just what it is. But at the same time, it'll be kind of educational to you if you've not been privy to looking at code and things like that. So we're doing this session for an hour. I got a question for you, Paul. I mean, obviously, GitHub has been there, and the code base has been made available like for months. So you had a chance to preview what's there, or?
Well, you only gave me access to that GitHub last week, so I have since then looked over it, but not much.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I think what happened was I had made it available to Catherine maybe April when we did an initial rollout. But obviously the code has changed a lot, and that was more like just to dot the I's and cross the T's. We were pushing the code on site, going into the test environment that you set up for us, and so the code was up on GitHub. So, but actually, let me see if I can share a screen, and then we kind of just dive into it. Bear with me 1 second.
Yeah.
All right. Let's just make sure that I'm not looking at anything strange. All right. So.
Before you just go into your demo, I noticed one thing this morning on your Scrum email you sent over.
Sure.
That you've deployed the reports, but I think they may have gone onto the wrong server.
That's right. Okay, so I did see the database created, and that's great, but I needed to actually get the reporting services configuration manager or something like that. So it's like I wouldn't be able to get that from the database server, and so where is it?
So I think you've deployed the reports to the SSRS instance on the wrong server.
It's actually a brand new instance as well. So when I was able to kind of URL in and get to it, it was saying something about encryption, and I was like, why is it encrypted?
So the server that I think that you've deployed the reports to is not the server that I sent to you.
That's right. That is correct. But I mean, we can always realign it if we need to realign it. It was just more case of obviously, literally, we have like 10 hours at that time. And it's like, I just need to get a server to deploy the reports on for production. But if we have time today, we can realign it.
Web server, yeah, we're not licensed for SQL on that box, so that's like it could cost us about 20 grand to license that server.
Boom!
To get them off to
seriously. Wow. Okay. So, aren't you MSDN? Doesn't MSDN give you automatic rights to install on premises?
Not to SQL, no. So it's a per core license model. I think it's about $4.5 grand per core. Not Search got 4 cores. So yeah.
All right.
So we need to put the SSRS instance on an existing SQL database that's already licensed, which I've done for you, and that's the server name that I'd sent you in the email.
Okay, so if you did get a chance to look on an email sent this morning, I don't have the ability to get to anything via HTTP. So when I did do the deployment like a day and a half ago, yes, I could go around and I could get onto the test instance, I could get onto the production instance, I could get onto the reporting services eventually, but I can't get onto any of that now. So yesterday, I mean, I put it up on Trello, but I could email. So that's what's funny. So I could email, I could use Teams, but I can't get to BBC, I can't get to Trello, anything like that from the laptop. So it's like, at that point, it was like, okay, fine, maybe that's just like a policy, like if somebody's on their last day, then we shut down their internet access or something like that. But it was like, what do I do? Right? So even right now, the code base is out of sync. So GitHub access, there's none. So you can't sync from Visual Studio between test and production and development. And it's like, again, I don't know what internal policy is in terms of, you know, people having access if it's their last day or something.
No, there shouldn't be anything that's stopping you getting onto the internet. We probably need to look at that if you're having problems.
Okay. So is this like a new thing? Like you're not having problems as well?
No.
Okay. But yeah, here we go. BBC, this site can't be reached. Trello can't be. Everything was shut down, and that was yesterday. So even like this morning, I tested and it was like, okay. So literally, we could be ahead. We could be further ahead in terms of like getting things up and running, but we just lost maybe like 5 hours, right? In work hours, so I'd say not like the time. But okay. So we know that backing out the SSRS deployment should be straightforward. That's just an uninstall. But then that means then that exercise would probably still need to go through. But again, that's depending on HTTP access. So even like getting on to test digital optimization or production digital optimization, I can't do that. So I'm actually talking to you now from the offsite machine, not the laptop, because it's like, what can I do with this? I can send an email, but it's just like, okay, fine. I'll just see how things progress through the day, and
Yeah. Well, if you can get that laptop on a bit, in a bit, we can jump onto it and we can troubleshoot your issue and try and fix it for you. So obviously you need to get that.
Okay. But what we're doing first, let's focus. So the idea is like just like going through some of the source code. I mean, yesterday we just briefly touched on a few things, and so today is kind of like just a follow up for that. And I think it's like it's going to be more fair if you ask some questions as well, as opposed to me just talking at you, because you know code already. So how do you want to break this down? I mean, let me give you. I'll spend 5 minutes just giving a high level walkthrough. And then maybe you might think, okay, where do you do this, or how do you do that, or something like that, and then we can kind of just go through it with the time that we have. Is that okay?
Yeah, I mean that's fine.
We're gonna have another session. How can I put it? I'm thinking all of today, if you have time for it, is going to be allocated to knowledge transfer of what's being built. And maybe even doing some integration work. So we know about access control lists that you use in-house to manage user access to systems. So we could probably do some paired programming. I know that's going back maybe 20 years, but do a bit of XP. For those who don't know, XP is extreme programming. That's when you do paired programming where one developer sits over the other developer's shoulder and they take turns like coding. It was a thing at one point, and then I think they shot a couple of people. No, they didn't. I'm just messing around. Okay. How does that sound? Paul? You good with that?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, if we're just going to be going over the code and stuff, I don't know how much value Paul and Alice are going to get from that. It's entirely up to yourselves if you want to stay around or you want to sit through. I know you're probably busy.
I was going to suggest, just before you said that, I was just going to ask if we are going through the code, is there a chance that me and Alice can just go through and just carry on testing some of the functionality in the system? You know, some of the bugs that you've fixed so far, Dave, just to make sure it's working, or am I better waiting anyway because you've got to upload it into the live version?
Once the systems are in sync, then features that haven't been patched in test or prod, you'll get visibility of. But there's nothing stopping you from being able to make some time to do some testing against features we haven't discussed. So we know that there's updates coming for the tags. I think tags is in test, but it's definitely not in production.
So is most of the stuff in test now, Dave, if we were to go in and have a play around with it?
Test is more up to date, has the most up to date code base. So I even made changes on test that aren't in dev because it's on the laptop. It's on-site access. So that code has not even hit the production environment yet because of the issues that we're having.
Okay. So if myself and Alice were to jump off the call then and go in and do some, just playing around with the system, doing some testing, go through the functionality a little bit more. If we were to, so one of the questions I was going to ask you yesterday, Dave, and again, I don't want to take up too much of this meeting because we're going to be going through it with Dave, with Paul, sorry, is, you know, when you were saying yesterday about if we were to remove all the users from practices, you're having issues. One of the things that we were going to do, Dave, as part of kind of post-go live was to go in and make all the users inactive so that we had no users within the practice. And then myself and Alice were going to go through a GP practice list that we've actually got to add all the correct practice managers into the practices. But if the first process of that was to go through and make everyone inactive, would I be getting the same issues that you're getting when you're removing them from the code in a sense of errors?
Okay, so let's say that the practice X has 5 hard-coded users and you were to disable all 5, and then you added just 1 user and you also made that user the default contact, that practice would be fine because it has a user and it has a default contact, right? So it's the idea that there's 133 practices to visit and make sure that that exercise is complete. But don't do that in test because that's going to be a waste of time. You do that in production.
Yeah. No, that's why I was asking that question. No, that's great then, Dave. I can leave that then until that goes into production then.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's great then. And then myself and Alice will just be, well, I will as well. I'm not speaking for you, sorry, Alice, but I'll be available all day if you've got any queries at all, or if you're on a call and you just need me to pop in just to clarify something, I'm more than happy to do that.
We can have it. Let's queue up maybe like a 3 o'clock, you know, online handshake. I mean, obviously, we're finishing the project at the same time. Right now, the energy feels like we need to prioritize 1, the handover, and 2, the stability of the system. But at the same time, we're human beings. And it's like this computer doesn't take priority over the human element. So I mean, I want to kind of just say, you know, thank you at the same time.
Yeah, no, definitely, no, yeah, we'll definitely have like an end of day call.
It's a strange one because I mean, obviously we're all remote. It's like flip. How does that work? You know, but it is what it is. You know, so you know, got to get used to the times.
Yeah, no, that's great then. Thank you. So if myself and Alice jump off, and again, I'm not speaking to Captain. Captain needs to be on, but yeah, I don't think we need to be on if you're going through all the code. But like I've just said, if you need us for anything whatsoever, just give us a shout or just call us if you need me to jump on the call with you.
Will do.
All right, thanks very much.
Thanks again, mate. Take it out.
Cheers. Speak to you later.
Bye. Okay, so right, so we're picking up where we left off yesterday when I was kind of having hiccups when I saw that this was hard-coded. So this is great to be in test. This is setting up the email that goes out, but it can't have a hard-coded URL. So last night I put the patch in to say, go to the web config or go to the JSON file and get that specific key, which is admin app URL. And so now, whichever environment, if you're in test, it will use a test URL. Of if you're in production, it will use a production URL. So that was one thing that needed to go in. So this code is currently up on GitHub, but it's not in production and it's not in test because of the issues that we talked about. So rather than me going through like just that one file, I'll give a high-level overview of the projects that we currently have here. I have no idea what internal, external. Yeah, that's the first. All right, because I'm running the app, probably that's why that's there. Right. So NHS Digital API. So this is everything that has anything to do with database access. At one point, there was some logic for doing things like how can I say identity type stuff, talking to the database, and I might have been doing the login, and login didn't use the API layer. It has its own kind of workflow. All of that's just out of the box from Microsoft, so if you're using that specific implementation, the project would come down and it would have identity type stuff set up for us. So let me just quickly try and find that. So some of this area here would have been talking to the database directly, but we're not doing that anymore because we're going through the API to get the users and things like that. So very, very high level. And again, if you've got any questions as we're going, just stop me and we can kind of dive through. So we have the controller. So the controller is just how you're going to actually hit the endpoints. As you know, I'm not talking at you just to be thorough, right?
Yeah.
So here we go. So each one of these controllers has a one-to-one mapping with the entities in the databases. So we'll just, in the meantime, in the background, have that launch so we can look at the database in a second. Okay, so if we see here, answer display, sorry, my apologies, bear with me while this loads. We have time, we're gonna kind of go through these. So answer display option is a table there. Answer display option is a controller there. And if I go and look on the actual entities themselves, I will have answer display option. So this answer display option has a one-to-one mapping with this answer display option here. So label, active, and then we have, oh joy, that is not the best, Dave. For some reason it's not doing what I'm expecting to do. Right, okay, so let's try that again. And so label, active, active, label, right? So as long as the entities are configured correctly, then they will automatically map across, right? Now, before I talk at you, help me understand. Are you familiar with the entity framework? Are you comfortable with it?
Yeah. So normally, normally we would do this the other way around. So we set up the database and then we'd scaffold it using database first. But obviously you're using code first, aren't you? So
right. For me, it was like, how can I put it? This is just going to save me a lot of. I'm working by myself in isolation, so it's like, this is brilliant. I just code it and it generates my backend for me. I mean, obviously, you and I, we've gone through the various layers of Microsoft data access. So from ADO and way back 20 years ago to, what was the next one? So we had ActiveX objects, and then we had something almost like entity framework when you're doing ORM, object relationship mapping, and things like that. And then this is what we got now. But even this seems kind of primitive. Because, I mean, at one point with entity framework, we had diagrams and, you could kind of drag and drop things. And so having a GUI was fantastic. But, it is what it is. We are where we are. But the good thing here is that the principle you already understand. So I don't need to kind of talk at you. So I'll just let you know, these are where the entities are sitting in the shared project, right? So let's copy that down. So in terms of like working with entities and link SQL and all that kind of stuff, are you comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't need to go through all that. The repositories are all going to be here under the models section, right? So again, all one-to-one with the database. So if you can see the table, there's a corresponding repository. And in terms of like the structure and things like that, how can I put it? It's just more understanding what the app is trying to do and what's being manipulated. So like yesterday, we look on events and we're trying to figure out what's going on with the event information. So event instance would be the place to look. So as long as you're comfortable kind of sourcing the data, you can see that. Or you can go to the API, the actual user interface itself. right? So I'm going to hide the database now and just kind of focus on the code. So the principle of controllers. So web API. I'm not going to talk about controls and things of that nature because again, you already do this in house. So it's just a case of actually understanding the structure as opposed to the technology. So this obviously is the API layer. We have the controllers. There at the moment, there's only one migration. Every time I come to clear down the database, I'll delete the migration and just repopulate the backend with a migration request. Are you comfortable with the understanding of what I just said?
So instead of stacking your migrations, you're just taking the latest one and putting
That's
that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Because how can I put it? Things change, so it's a brand new system. So every day you're adding new tables and things like that, or changing tables, and some point things can kind of get out of sync, adding the extra migrations on top. So it's just easy to just like delete everything and then run a migration just to get the database back up and running. And that's how I'm doing the deployment to test, and that's how I'm doing deployment to production. But obviously, moving forward, that's your baseline, and then you start building out, additional migrations and things like that. But again, I don't perceive, at least in the short term, I don't perceive that there's any kind of user request that requires additional entities or additional tables. It'll probably be more around the actual user interface, and manipulating of existing entities for the time being. But I mean, I can't swear to that because it's only in the last 5 days that we've added that enabled concept for activating and disactivating, and then is administrator. So those went in, but again, I'm not going to talk at you. I know you understand the principles. So there's a model, and then in here there has been. So every time I put any kind of SQL scripts together, they're here. So right now, all like these could be deleted from 1 to 15, and then this is just generated scripts for the backend to say drop the tables, right? So again, it's just standard SQL management studio type stuff. And then this would be some test population of so this here test population of the work stream. So this is test data. It got us in trouble the other day. It's fantastic when you're working in the test environment and you don't want to sit down and type up 100 tasks against a work stream. So what was given to me in Excel format, I kind of just went through and I did an import into a very specific table. Just show you.
So you're using the SQL scripts to populate the data rather than using like sort of seed data.
In some instances. So when we started the project, I spent time typing up the seed data for eConsult baseline. So every time I deploy, that will go out as part of the migration script. Work streams was a different phase, and I just said, please give me your Excel template, and I kind of cleaned up the data. And so rather than me just talking at you, it should be in here. Should be in test and production as well. For some strange reason, I couldn't find it. It's like, where the hell is it? Okay, there you go. Right, so this is the staging area, and I have it backed up. So if I wipe down the database, I wouldn't delete that backup table. And then this comes through as an entity. And then when I run the script, it'll move the data from the backup into the data, or at least it was when that was something important, right? So let me see if I can actually find one of these scripts here, make it make a bit more sense. So again, this is just purely to actually be able to give Paul and Alice something to play with without having to go and do a lot of typing because I mean, setting up a work stream like this could take a couple of days. So yeah, it's doing a delete, a clear down of the existing non-physical facts work stream, running some updates just to kind of get things aligned correctly, and then from there it's like work stream, set up the header in the work stream table and the work packages, go and get them from the test data from the staging tape for non-physical facts. So this is not used by the actual application itself. This is purely just to actually get the data from Excel, and then migrate the data into the actual system itself. So then the UI would then be feeding off the equivalent. And so it's just like, you know, a one-off type exercise. It's not perfect. In theory, it shouldn't be used in production. Like seriously, it shouldn't be used in production. But it helps for the users so they can actually see. So if we come in here, non-physical facts, this is feeding off that. So, you know, technically they could like come in and edit it and not necessarily have to worry about the assignments and things like that 100%. But my concern with saying use this in production is it's test data. It could have issues in terms of maybe not setting flags on and off and things like that. Whereas if it goes to the business logic, when they actually create the questions or the task and things of that nature, then that falls in line with what it should do, right? If that makes sense. I mean, obviously, when you start spending time with it, you know, you get a bit more comfort with it. But like seriously, going into testing about a month and a half ago, I believe that Paul was doing testing in the test environment, and I thought there were no bugs because I wasn't getting any kind of email saying, "Hey Dave, when I press this button, nothing happens." And so it was like, hold on there, no testing is taking place for the past year. So yeah, 115 bugs were found and patched. And I highlighted that, look, don't trust this test data. It's just there for you to be able to, you know, get up and running quickly in the test environment. But if you're making a new work stream or a new survey, do it from the front end, right? And again, sorry.
How they'll be using it moving forward, won't they? So yeah.
So yeah, that's the high level principle in terms of what the structure is as far as the API. So if I just close this down, move back to the actual system. So some of these scripts, do all of these relate to the app? Regions, Liverpool. Yeah, so some of them are just like old scripts that I use to like do data migration from Excel into SQL Server staging tables and then into the actual system itself. So you probably won't ever touch these again.
That's fine.
So let's look on the actual migration script itself. So here we go, looking at the AppDB context. So again, this is something that you'll kind of just eyeball every now and then. It's not ever going to be used after the production has been set up. So if I've set up the production database, this specific migration should never, ever, ever be used again, because all the lookups are already there and set. Right, so the system's there. It's just it is what it is. So here's the eConsult baseline, working with the entities and getting that kind of configured.
So once you deploy that into live and you run your app, that should just set all that up for you.
That's it. It's ready to go. And so at that point, everything we're expecting for Paul and Alice and Louise would be more along the lines of new surveys, new work streams, and new users, potentially, or new practice managers or things of that nature.
But once they've got that solution in production, they've got the ability to go and do that, haven't they, from the front end?
That's right. So and that was the principle. That the whole design concept was that the users should be like enabled to do whatever they want without needing to contact IT. So that, especially that admin area, oh, actually the admin area, the survey creation, the work stream creation, they have a screen to create and edit the data. And so the idea of, oh, on survey X, I'm getting an error. Could you go in the database and have a look for me? Like, it was designed so they should never have to do that. But obviously now, with what we talked about yesterday with access control lists, that is one area of logical overlap where we're saying system administrators need to be contacted to make sure that X user is no longer in the system. But those are kind of like, few and far between, one every 6 months, one every year or something, unless they're having some massive primary care onboarding drive. Once you've set up, the first 5 or 6 users, I mean, I don't have visibility of what's taking place in house. I'm only like saying what my perception is based on what I understand of what's taking place. But yeah, I'm thinking there's only like 5 or 6 users who are going to be using this system, and so it's just like a deny all except these 5 users or something like that.
Or even sort of separating that logic out between sort of the users in the system as you've got them now, who are in those lists and got the ability to do things, to almost a separate set of entities that are allowed to access the front end. So that there could be some sort of separation between that, I guess. But as I say, until I've sort of got familiar with things.
Well, in theory, I guess you could do that. A lot of that would depend on how much time you have. So, like, if I had, let's say I was going to be here for another month, just like an example, and Paul was to come through and said, could you split out the users that can access the system from like the practices, the practice managers and information facilitators and so on? I'd probably start to cry. But, it's like, that's a lot of work. It's like, because all of these repositories, a lot of them have links back to users in some way, shape, or form. And so if those users are handled differently, it means the logic has to then split, right?
Well, what I mean is, so if those things all just stayed the same, but we just controlled the access to the system with a separate set of entities, still users, but the people who actually can log on to the front end and do things,
right?
Then that would leave all of that logic as it is, but we just have this other set of people who we need to
Okay, no, sure. Okay, so I'll give you a steer. To show you where the users are entering, or like the menus being set up, which I know you know that, because in the first demo you did, you were telling me what my system was doing, and I was like, what? How does this guy know that? I mean, you knew where to go, right? And that was like, wow. I was kind of, but obviously if you had done some research into Blazor, you'd have known the architecture anyway. So, but I was quite impressed how you did that. So we're now here at the host being, where we're hosting the Blazor app. So there's not any Blazor going on at this end. The Blazor is all going on here at app and app public. But to focus on the idea of being able to hide users from the system, it's either going to be here or it's going to be in app. Let's double check in app. Give me a sec. So the nav menu. So in the nav menu, so this bit of logic just went in on Sunday, right? So we have a user data source, and I know that by we get this far, I should have this populated, right? So if I just quickly look on this, what I have here, I have like the API URL, the name, the email address, the environment, production or development, test, what have you, first name, last name, that sort of thing. So this user ID obviously maps back to the database, but for the idea of what you're doing, it could be that you could be using the email address, to map into your Active Directory or something, or you have the first and last name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously you'll know what filter you'll want to use, but let me just undo this change. Right. So the idea here is, as long as you have that information, then you can kind of hide everything, right? And just do some kind of switch. If this user not in X list, then don't show this, right?
Yeah.
So this would be kind of like a starting point for you. This area here. So we're talking in the app.
What it could potentially do as well.
Yeah.
Just thinking about it. So, and what I do on some of the app build stuff that I've been working on.
Sure.
So we switch on Windows authentication at the IIS level.
Right.
So that basically, we could just put the security group in there. Just thinking out loud.
Oh, right. Yeah. Sweet. That would be better.
So everything within the app would just stay the same.
Right.
But you literally wouldn't be able to get into the app unless you were in the security group.
I got you.
So that's probably the solution that they're looking for, to be honest, now that I'm thinking it through.
Understood. So when you said access control list, I thought you had like some web API that you wanted to call into or something. But from the perspective, like, so even with ASP.NET being able to say deny all users with an asterisk, and then saying allow users, and then putting them in a list. Yeah, definitely. I mean, whatever you need to do, I'm there to work with you to kind of make that happen. So that would mean zero code changes in theory.
Yeah. So if you weren't in that, you'd be doing that check outside of the app. It just happened as soon as you hit the IIS site, and then you would only be allowed into the site itself if you were in that group.
That list.
And then everything else within the app will just stay as it is.
Perfect.
So that sounds like the solution. Yeah.
Okay, so the email that I sent this morning. Sorry, go on. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, now that I've sort of thought that through, and obviously you give me a little bit of an overview as well. That's just helped with that thought process of me thinking.
Well, I mean, we only came up to that wall yesterday, so the idea that by today we have a fix and it's not a high impact change, that's even better, right? So the email I sent you this morning, or the Scrum email, it has a list of the users that are in Louise's team. Those are the business change coordinators and the PCDs. They're going to be the ones who are going to be using the system. And then obviously Paul can always contact you and ask you to add an additional user to the list, as it were. So yeah, that's a quick win. Do I need to show you any more code then, or are we good?
Yeah, I think I'm comfortable with that sort of access list type stuff. It's probably useful to see what you do with the surveys and how you sort of store them, the definition, and how that works a little bit. That's probably something useful.
All right, let's head back. Let's head back to the actual app. All right, so this is the eConsult baseline. But if I'm going to follow the business rules, I'm going to create a new. This is just select one here and save. And so now, just to, it's not smoke and mirrors. Let's go back to the database. If I go to surveys table, then I've got my new survey that's just been created. And so from there, if I drill into that, I get a default page, which means the page table is being populated, default page, and a thank you page. The thank you page is not used. It's there to allow the survey to go to an empty page saying thank you, if that makes sense. So we don't give them the ability to edit that. But then that also means that, well, like if you're writing a report or you're working on some kind of list and you're pulling everything back for the survey, if you don't want to see that empty thank you page, you need to be aware of it. I think it's got a flag on it saying something like is protected. I can just quickly go back here and pages. Thank you page created new. Dave, what's happened here? Right.
Second column.
Is it? Right. Okay, my eyes are getting bad. COVID eyes. All right. Yeah, so here we are, protected. So that page is protected, and so that'll allow you to have a filter. So you don't have to type out thank you page. You just say, if it is protected, don't show it. That was like, that only went in like 3 weeks ago, and the whole idea was on the reports, you're seeing all the actual information for the survey and the page, but you don't want to show that on the reports, which was a bit annoying. But I mean, it's just one of those things you just kind of need to do. So we're now adding a question. The types of questions that you can ask are in this list. So I got multiple text boxes, and then you just add, question. No, this is going to be an answer, Nate. So this is going to be an answer. One. Again, Paul and Alice are going to be, quite clued up on how to set this up. And question. Can you bear with me 1 second? I'm pretty sure I don't have deliveries today, but somebody just rang the doorbell. Just quickly head down.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
2 seconds. 2 seconds. Right, my apologies. Nobody at the door, which is rather strange. But okay, so yeah, I mean the DPD guy. I think he might have been trying to do a delivery to somebody else, and he just randomly touching on the doorbells. So yeah, it's like no orders today. Okay, so that's the principle of how this is being set up here. I'm just catching my breath. My apologies. Wow. Okay.
What do you want to say then?
Okay, so let me think. What's the best thing to show? So, okay, I don't want to do anything and then something breaks. It's like every time I come to the screens now, because we've been doing testing, it's like the fear factor that you're going to press something and you'll find a bug. It's like, I don't want to be finding bugs right now. It's the last day, right? So, but just to, put a bit more confidence back in, I'm going to add another question, and I'm going to say, next question. And this one is just going to have an other field, and I'll just type other in here. You could type any, like, another question if you wanted to, like if yes, then when, right? Or something like that, right? And so now I have the question and I have that, right? And so you can then add another page and say page 2. No, just say page test or something, right? And then say that. And so now I have a thank you page here, which is interesting. Where's my page? What I do? Oh my flipping word, that's a bug. That's not what I want to see right now. Let's just refresh this and see what's going on, because that's never happened before. That is a bug. And that was introduced by hitting the insert next page here. Okay, it looks like you might have some work to do then. Good word. Paul and Alice have been using this, and they don't have that. So that I've never seen that before. Like never seen that before. But it's also the idea. Like I said, that this was only just introduced, so it could be something that I introduced when I put this in. Let's try and fix that while we're on the call. That would be a valid exercise. So we have the page and then the second page going in. So this would be around the page row. Right. This should be interesting. What time is it? We got 15 minutes left. All right. So go on, Dave. Show them what you got. Come on. Okay. So page row. Okay. So we have the app, and the app has components. It has pages, and it has services. So these services talk back to the API level. But I know that what I need to be looking at right now should be components. So I also have a couple components on here, and that says page row. So new logic went in to add that thank you page, and that could be why this has now come about. So let's look on this here. So, and also at the question level, which is going to be at the component level, let's have a look on question themselves. Okay, so page. This is a significant bug. That's nothing to laugh about. This is huge. Okay, but it's good that we caught it now. So hopefully we can get this resolved by close of play today. Oh my God. So we said insert page here. So it wasn't a question. It's at the in. Let's look on the UI. Insert page here. Okay. Go back to page row. If it's published and not protected. It's a decoration for the dialog. Insert page here. Go to definition. On
That conditional logic, did that say if page is protected or if it isn't protected?
That's right. So protected is when you publish. So when you publish things, the UI becomes protected, meaning that you can't actually do anything, you can't change anything. It's all protected now. Let's double check that, Dave. I don't want to mislead you there. Let's just go back. So first row is protected. So protected is going to be having to do like what we just talked about. If protected, page model, or not protected.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
So that's almost like saying if true.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody was coding late. Okay. I don't want to touch that because I literally could just change that and say if true, which means that this in theory is like it's like not being used, right?
Yeah.
So it's always going to go through. But maybe you're quite right. But I will always want the ability to do that. This one is disabled. So if it's published and locked, or if it's not published and locked, then I'll give the ability to do it. Otherwise, disable it. So yeah, it's still sheeted for publishing bit, but if protected, that's right. So if it is protected, you're not supposed to. Hey, interesting. Okay, let's put our eyeballs on this for a sec because you found something there. Let's look on that. So we got this protected, and that's the one I would have pressed. But that's also a logical one to press. What would have come about when we have this thank you page is that the indexing would be affected, maybe. So let's take that out. But even if I was to take it out, this survey has not been published, right? So you still would have had that as enabled. If I took that line of code out,
Yeah, the first if statement just doesn't apply, does it?
That's
So,
right. It's just set like saying if true.
Yeah.
All right. All right. But this will then bring up the dialogue. So it's a dialogue that's going to write to the database. Let's have a look on that quickly. So page edit dialogue, go in. I know that I am doing something. Go to definition. So here now we're at the page edit dialogue. It does a reset and something. So let me quickly scroll to where I perceive something could be going on. All right, so handle the valid submit. There's a page, there's a new page name. I need to make sure that it's protected is not set. All right, I'm gonna do that again. So I'm gonna put a breakpoint there. I know that I should have code that executes, that creates both the new page and the second page. That would have been called when we set up the survey. So let me just quickly scan through this a sec and see what's going on. Unremoved page breaks, no. Right, so that's the logic. This is the logic that's going to go ahead and create just that single page. So it shouldn't be creating 2 pages because that's what's happened here.
Is the 2 thank you pages in the database?
No, wait, you're right. Wait, sorry, my train of thought here. Hold on, give me a sec. This was already created, and this was already created when we came in. But it created a thank you page, which is not what was asked for. So that's where the issue is. And so let's see if we step through, and it'll kind of come. Let me just go to the server as well and set some breakpoints. Controller, page controller, because that's all we're doing. We're just creating a new page. So there it is. It should only be creating what we're telling it to create. The name shouldn't be empty. Okay, so if I create another page, it should create another thank you page. So that's what we're going to be looking to see what happens here. So we come up here. It's saying thank you page, but I'm almost certain we overrode that and we're saying new. Let's just say test page 2. Okay. So that's add page. So it should call that. Okay, let's just step through. So the page model, it has test page, it has the right information. We don't put anything in the description, but that's not mandatory, I don't think. Get page from model. So that's going to be test page. And now we're calling in to the API. I don't see anywhere where it would have said test page, like overwritten it and made it protected. Let's just check the flag and see if it's protected. Protected is false. So this is the same button we just pressed a while ago, right?
Yeah.
And so, okay, we continue. So, and we're calling in the page model is test page. And it's still protected false, which is exactly what we need. So the question is, why did it... Something's... Okay, so it's considering this is valid to be false because I didn't give it a description. That's interesting. Okay, and it wasn't successful. Okay, and then it errors. Because I didn't give it a description. This is... Paul is doing a lot of testing in production, in test there. Let's roll this up again. That's quite interesting. Okay. So it's a good thing we're actually doing this. So in getting a bit of familiarity, you're gonna have some work to do now.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if we can fix this while I'll still at it here. I'm gonna shout at Paul. It's like, you're telling me you're testing, you can't find any, but you know, how can I say? I couldn't get that as a bug before either. All right, so let's quickly go back in. Now, I attempted to create a new page a while ago. It didn't create that page. I'm wondering if, no. Let's try again, but this time giving it a description. So, new page 2, and I'm gonna just put that same thing here. Save that. Get up to the server quickly. Right, so last time it's saying it was invalid, now it's saying it's not invalid. But I'm just trying to see if there's anywhere where it could actually say test page. And so far, no, I can't see any place that says that. There's a new page. So we have a issue with that field. If the description is not set, it shouldn't get up to the server. So let's see if we can go in and make sure that page creation has a flag to say that this must be set. That's interesting. That for 1 year nobody found that bug. That's very interesting. And I'm finding it on my last day. I'm like, this is I hate that. Okay, let's go to definition. No, it's good. It's like I would prefer that it's functioning correctly rather than later on we find out there's some kind of issue. So yeah, it's required. Description is required. So there's just it's a validation issue. There's no validation protecting that from being submitted. Okay, let's see if we can go back to that page row. Your dialog. Let's go back to page row. It's in this area here. Go to definition. All right. So this should not allow this routine to go to the server. I see what. There's no validation on the UI to test the model. How long is that going to take you, Dave? Okay. It's something that's doable. It's just you know, did you expect to be doing that right now in the session? Boom. Right. So page edit is this is page edit model, and so how did we leave this? Edit form. There is some bits for the validation. All right, let's see if I can find one that's actually doing some, and then just migrate that across. Bear with me 1 second. This is practice contacts. Do we have validation? And this is an old file. All right, no. Practice contacts again. Boom, 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 boom. No. Don't know what that is. Find. And this project. Here. This one doesn't need that. Okay. Distribution group. Would I have that on the dialog? Possibly.
Has it got the data annotations validator?
Yeah, I'm just trying to grab it and like just it's the same code on every screen you see, so that kind of saves me the energy to have to go and rethink all this stuff from scratch. All right, so it's the page edit dialog, and right, go to definition, and so yeah. Matter of fact, let me just drag this out and put this in. It's not declared. distribution group. Go to definition. All right. So I might have some of this already. And do I need that? Do I need that? Do I need that? Do I need that? ED. So it doesn't have those two. Actually, don't move from here. Twice. Don't need that. Okay. So what is the model on the screen? So it's going to be here. Page model. Page model. And I'm saying if the description is not there, then sorry, trying to train of thought. Name of, introduce a bracket, distribution, validate, don't need to do all that.
Doesn't it normally pull that from your annotations though, and your model?
Not automatically. You still need to work with the workflow. So the workflow for like the handling here now, it will then put the validation in here when it goes ahead and then says it's invalid, sort of thing.
That was the whole point of the data annotations validator. It would pull that from your
not automatically. And even here, so it's already got page model as the model, but page model is not, how can I put it? Page model doesn't have the data annotation. Remember when I said what we use for the communication to the server?
okay. Yeah, so that's why it's not doing it automatically.
It doesn't have that there. And so we could shift from page model for the UI. It's just the work of saying we're using page here, we're using page model here, and it's like, well, actually no, let's do that. It calls for it in this instance actually. Let's go on.
But with that data annotations validator, that's what it's for. So like if you're saying it's required and that's the error message and it can only be this long.
Sure.
It should just do that for you based on what you
when you come to submit, and how can I put it? This has only been changed recently. So up until now, it's not presented itself as an issue, or Paul will be screaming his head off and saying that doesn't work, right? So right now, there's a couple of things. One, the protected flag, which again is brand new. That thank you page only went in and like after test. So how can I put it? If you're doing your testing, but you're also working to a deadline of, I should have finished last Friday. So last Friday was supposed to be my last day. So it's like, what's the priority? Priority is getting reports into production. Priority is getting production up and running and things like that. So if there is even bugs, you're being told the internal guys are going to take care of that. So even what I'm doing now, the only reason why there's nothing else in my hand that I technically need to be focused for more than the handover. So as an exercise of patching this now, that's why we're doing it, right? But yeah, it's just one of those things. I mean, literally, we were in a milestone or a series of sprints, and I kind of just had to get rid of reports because I recognized, look, nobody's focused on the idea that there are bugs and we need to get bugs out of the system, right?
Yeah.
So it's just that we didn't patch either. I didn't patch this one, or I introduced this one while making changes to something else. But you are quite right. You are quite right. We can now. Let me just have a look and see what I'm pulling back from the server. At what point do I get the page model? So the page model is coming as a parameter. So that means I'm not even getting the page model
Yeah, don't
myself.
worry about it. Don't worry about it. Do you know what? I think we probably just need to focus on is getting.
This is
Yeah,
this
as
is
it
a
is.
valid handover. So like if we work on this together and get it in,
Yeah,
you'd see. So even you now, you're like, oh wait, but we could be using the page. So it's like you can, but don't try and send that page to the server because sometimes it'll go through and sometimes it won't. Whereas if I send a page model to the server, that is definitely going to go to the server. And so it's like, yeah, you know, are you happy to carry on or wait? Hold on there. Do you have other meetings?
no, I'm okay. But I mean, I think I'm just wondering, like, we got enough time to get everything up and running in production with everything we need to do with the reports and without sort of doing any additional bug fixes like this and potentially introducing some other issues. Have we got enough time for very little time to get it into the production?
I'm the guy that works till midnight, so you tell me. You know? So, all right. We said we were going to shut down this session at 11, noting that we do need to do things around. Well, now we definitely need to take the report services off that server, meaning that we haven't even got reports in production on a valid instance of report services. So, do we take a break now and then pick things up in the afternoon, or how do you want to do this?
Yeah, I mean, if we try and focus on getting what the code as it is now into production, and then go from there.
Okay. All right. So, I'm heading off maybe quarter to 12 for lunch, not for the day. And then I would say 1 o'clock we pick things up. I definitely want to fix this bug because to me this is significant. I don't expect any bugs coming back for surveys, not after all the testing and everything else. So the fact that this is even a bug, it annoy me not just the weekend, like for weeks, right? So let me get this patched between now and lunch, and then I'll check this in, right? You're still connected to the GitHub, so you'll have visibility of that. I do know that I have changes on the laptop, on on-site laptop, which they have not hit GitHub. So when I was trying to check in yesterday, because I don't have HTTP access at the moment, I couldn't even check in that code. So there's a code merge that I need to do with what's in test. And then from there, then I can start focusing for the reports.
Okay, yeah, no problem. So, yeah, I am going to have to jump off onto another call in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
But if you want to, it's up to you. If you want to,
I want to fix this. I definitely want to fix this.
Yeah, and then when you're back from lunch, give me a shout and we'll go through your issues on the other laptop and make sure we can get everything pushed up to GitHub and get everything we need into production.
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay,
so we're looking for what, 1 o'clock?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, perfect. All right, thanks, Paul. Appreciate it, mate. But thank you. You helped me find a bug. Joy on my last day. No, we got to get the bugs fixed. We got to get the bugs fixed. All right, 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, mate. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. If you're doing a submit. Submit. All right. Doesn't matter if it's one or the other. Okay. All right. Fix it. All right. How did that happen, Dave? You numpty. All right, so let's just swap from a page model and go down to a get page from, okay. And then I'm going to have a page, not a page model. So now I have a page. Wait, no. Not equal to page model. Okay. Need all that there. Okay. So I know I have a page, and so I can swap that there, and there, and there, and there, and there, and there, and there. We can start that now. Imagine on the good word. So right, so binding there, and okay. Okay, okay, okay. All right, so now we'll go down to handle, and so, and I can put page here, page here, and if it's null or empty, how could you have an shocking. Good word. And then context. Only if it is valid do I want to carry out this exercise. Is that a huge change? Significant enough? On remove page break. Okay, okay, okay. It's a huge change to be making. Good word. Last day coding. What's wrong with you? Right, so that's there. And if it's not valid, then do that. That's one step. But why did it? Because it called it thank you page? Some bad juju. Alright, let's fix it. Alright. As far as errors clear, okay. Build. Wait, otherwise, now the page model is equal to new page model, survey model, new model. Okay, so now I can swap that back. This wasn't there before. And so now I can say page model equal to new page model, and don't need that. Page Okay. So this protects that. Survey page link after the page is created. That could be a source of issue. Adding the page. Good word. No, no, no. Just continue. You are passing up a page. Oh, sugar. You don't want to do that. You want to send up the page model, not the page. Artifact. Build. That's huge. Time. All of these are working with the page, and that's the opposite. Oh, sugar. All right, we need to swap. So we need to update the add page and also the get page or the update page. All right, that build. Okay, update and fix. Go to definition. Page model. And the update page model. No, you don't have to change that. You already do it. Get page, add page. Where's add page? Add page converts already. Okay. That's one less thing to think about. Good. Good. Well done. Okay, so don't need to change that. Go back to the API. Actually, no. If it already does that, then yeah, let's save that and test. How could that error? That's mad. That's mad. Okay, now we're going to insert a new page. New page. And we're going to hit that. It's got the validation on there. And if I remove that, it's got that on there. Okay. That's a good thing, right? So, validation for title, validation for page, description. Only one of them showed up. The one for the description did not show up. Page description is not valid. because okay. After the text area, this here, style hidden, page title. The text area is there, the group is there, but right after it, okay, page description. I can see from the trees. Page. Don't be grateful that you were guided to fix that. Fuck. No reference exception. System validation. Okay. Why the fuck is that null? Distribution group dialog. That is one. I just want to do this. Okay, this one. Didn't tell you if there's something. No, they will. Do. New page 3. This is a new page. Alright, so it sees this is valid now, which is good. Call into that. It's got that. So now we associate it. So we have a new page. So the question is why, all right, let's try, if I add a new page here, let's add a new survey and see what happens. So it's created 2 pages, and when I insert a new one, what happens? New page 1. Let's take this in there. And then it worked. So that worked. Good, that worked. That never didn't work. Oh, stop. Page row. That bracket is not needed. So there's no shielding necessary to say if the page model is protected or not protected. You don't need that switch. That's just irrelevant. It's late night coding scenario. Okay. Time. Okay. So that went up to the server when it shouldn't, and that would cause errors. And if you have try catches all over the place, you wouldn't see that there was an error. Very strange one. Very strange one. All right, we'll close that down and check in this code. I guess that's it.